Hello everybody, we are going to be doing a series review over the Colorado Avalanche and the Seattle Kraken in the first round. So of course, let's dive on into it. Game 1, going into this one, this was the first playoff game ever in Seattle Kraken history, and it was special as they were taking on the defending Stanley Cup champions. Eli Tolvanen ended up scoring the first playoff goal for them in franchise history to take a 1-0 lead in the first game. Mikko Rantanen also scored in the first period to tie it up. Alex Winberg was able to get one for Seattle back to take the lead back 2-1. And Morgan Geekie added a third for the Kraken to be able to take a 3-1 lead, and eventually they would go on to win this one by 3-1. This was special too. Not only was this their first playoff win in franchise history, but for goalie for the Kraken, Philip Grubauer, this was also a win over his former squad, the defending champs, like we did mention already. Game 2 in Colorado. Again, Colorado looking to bounce back after a series opening game loss, and with Seattle being the underdog, they really didn't seem to mind that Colorado was motivated in this one early on, at least, as they jumped out to a 2-0 lead, one of those goals being shorthanded, so that's great there for them. But ultimately, Colorado was able to snuff out the hopes of a 2-0 series lead for the Kraken with 2 goals of their own in the middle period. And then in the third, it was Devon Toews who gave the Avalanche a win by a final score of 3-2 to even up the series. So not a lot of crazy high scoring series here. And for Seattle, you got to feel really good being able to grab those leads early on in the series. But still a tough loss in Game 2 as they head back for Seattle in Game 3. Game 3, and this one is the first playoff game in Seattle. This is where Jaden Schwartz struck first in this one to take a 1-0 lead for the Kraken. The Avalanche were able to score 3 unanswered, 2 in the first, and then 1 in the second to take a 3-1 lead. Jamie Alexiak and Matty Beniers did end up evening things up, and it was 3-3 after 2. Unfortunately for fans of the new team in the Pacific Northwest, Colorado again scored 3 unanswered goals to make it a 6-3 game. Schwartz did score again for this one. He found the back of the net yet again, and then they lost 6-4, so that was heartbreaking there to lose the playoff opener in franchise history. 2-1 is or 6-4 as the series moves to 2-1 Colorado. Then in Game 4, as the Kraken are looking to tie the series up, we saw a big event early on that had likely some pretty big ripple effects in this one, as Cale Makar was called on an illegal hit that got him a 1-game suspension as he ended up hitting Jared McCann, and who knew what was going to happen here. McCann ended up missing the rest of the series, a 40-goal score for Seattle, and in the first, Seattle was up early again with 2 goals, and for Makar, he would serve a 1-game suspension after this. So a loss for Seattle, and then also a loss for Colorado in losing Makar. Mikko Rantanen did provide 2 goals for the Avalanche to tie things up in the second, though. So despite all the distraction and things like that, Colorado and Seattle were able to have a close game. No goals were scored in the second. So in overtime, the myth, the legend, Jordan Eberle ended up scoring on the power play to draw this series even at 2-2. And most notably in this one, the Avalanche were outshot 43-22 in this affair. So for the Kraken, maybe not the score you're hoping for, because yes, you did win, but it wasn't as comfortable. At the end of the day, though, anytime you are able to tie things up against the defending champions and go to at least 6 games, that's a good thing. Game 5 in Colorado. Colorado and Seattle both looking to get the series edge here, and it was again Geekie that scored the opening goal in this one, with McKinnon tying it up about a minute later to make it 1-1. But the Kraken prospect Ty Cartier ended up getting a goal here. This was actually his NHL debut, if I'm not mistaken. He led all AHL rookies for points. He ended up scoring a power play goal here, and this one was good too because it gave Seattle the lead back. And then in the third, Yoni Gord scored to make it 3-1 Seattle. Evan Rodriguez would go on to score late in this game to make it 3-2. Again, a number you'll hear a lot in this series, but we were all surprised to see in the hockey world and interested as Seattle would go on to win this one and actually take a 3-2 series lead, winning yet again in Colorado and putting the Avalanche on the brink of elimination. Game 6 in Seattle. Colorado has to win this one to stay alive, and with this being a pivotal clash, you would imagine that Seattle was itching to get out for this one too as well. Vince Dunn did get the crowd going with the first goal of the game, and Seattle, of course, taking the lead with that first goal, but that was all she wrote for Seattle, as Colorado ended up scoring 4 goals, 1 in the first, 2 in the second, and 1 in the third, to win a must-win affair to push this series to the full 7 games, as it was going to be in Denver and the Avalanche were going to obviously try to win this one. My apologies, I'm super tired. Then Game 7, winner takes all. This one is weird for both sides and just so weird for ways that goals were scored, I guess, if you want to say, as Oliver Bjorkstrand scored the first 2 goals for the Kraken to take a 2-0 lead. One of those being kind of a weird deflection. Now, Mikko Rantanen scored a weird goal too. Nathan McKinnon's the one that shot it, but it went off Rantanen, and this was in the same period to make it a 2-1 game. Of course, Seattle still holding on to this lead. The third period made it even more interesting in an odd way, as the Avs were able to score a goal, and the Kraken ended up challenging it. It was ruled that they were offside, the Avalanche were, so that goal gets removed. Not the craziest thing that happened, but not a great thing for the Avalanche in a Game 7, is this is where the scoring is low and you really need a goal. But that was all she wrote for this one, with the Kraken pulling off a big upset. Not the biggest upset of the first round. Of course, Florida and Boston were part of that big upset, but still a big one nonetheless. Though for Colorado, an early loss, a very early loss. This team is not used to losing this early in the playoffs and was hoping to be a team that could go and win back-to-back Stanley Cups. Of course, now they're not going to be able to do so. They did lose some guys during the offseason this past season. And then, of course, they had to deal with a lot of injuries. Landeskog was out for this series. Nichushkin had his whole thing that we aren't going to get into because we don't know a lot of facts about what's going on there. Seems like he's just disappeared off the face of the earth. And then, of course, Makar had a Game 5 suspension. So for them, this was a tough loss. Heartbreaking, but maybe they can use it as motivation going forward next year to try to get back to the Stanley Cup final and maybe to win it. As for Seattle, very big win. Obviously, their first series win ever. They held the lead in every game. So for them, while they didn't win in convincing fashion in 4 games or something like that, they did hold the lead, and they were able to show that they could hang out with one of the best teams in the league, in my opinion, and a team that I think would have been even better if they were healthier. But they also were able to win, notably, 3 games in Colorado. So for them to be able to go in and win 3 out of the 4 required to win a series in a away game or multiple away games is fantastic for them, and just kind of a testament to what they've been able to do in their turnaround from year 1 to year 2. Now they will go on to play the Dallas Stars in the second round. That series starts tomorrow, so I'm going to get that series preview out tomorrow. But what are your thoughts on this series? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video and subscribe if you're new. My apologies if I'm out of it. Reviews are always the hardest videos to do, just because you're trying not to read directly off your notes, but then you're also trying to remember what you typed. And then in general, I'm just tired from getting all these notes done for the previews and the reviews and trying to get all this stuff out. But anyway, like and subscribe if you want. And then also, please, everybody, make sure to stay safe. Have a great night, and you go with hockey all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.